others, welcome back. What we have now is Alex Gamble, experienced designer from PwC Digital, who's going to give us a case study, how financial professionals can lead customer experience and drive commercial returns. Alex is the product lead at PwC's Ventures Hub. He's helped a variety of businesses from small startups to big companies, corporates, develop user-centered and innovative products. Alex has recently written an e-book titled The Guide to Agile UX Design Sprints, which has been published by UXPin. Today he will talk about overcoming the hype in user-centered design in relation to innovation. We welcome Alex.
Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, I'm Alex and I'm from PwC Digital, and if any of you read the New Zealand Herald, at about this time last year you would have seen this. And I'm not just showing you this because it's a picture of me in the paper. I'm showing you this because it gives a good description of what PwC Digital does. So we specialise in solving problems and creating opportunities by ensuring better human experiences are always at the heart of the solutions we design. Then we help turn these plans into reality, making PwC Digital unique in New Zealand. No one else provides integrated end-to-end digital and experience solutions from strategy right through to execution. So that's kind of like the marketing definition of what we do. But in PwC Digital, we have this mantra that we follow. So we believe that world-class organisations don't compete on price, products or features, they compete on experience. And great experiences are the ultimate drivers of preference, loyalty and advocacy. So basically what we're saying with this is that we believe that experience is the new competitive advantage. And I'll give you a couple of examples to back that up. So this is Netflix. If you haven't heard of Netflix, you've probably been living under a rock, but Netflix provides online TV show and movie streaming, and you can pay $10 a month to basically watch as many TV shows and movies as you like. An interesting thing happened with Netflix in Sweden when it was released. So a Swedish research company did some research into how many TV shows and movies were illegally downloaded. And in 2008, they found that 260 million different TV shows and movies were downloaded. And that was the same year that Netflix was released in Sweden. And then over the following years, that number dropped by over 50% to 120 million in 2013. And there's a really strong correlation there between the release of Netflix and the decrease in illegally downloaded TV shows and movies. And that's interesting in itself, but what I find even more interesting is that people went from a free service, so it was free to download TV shows and movies illegally, to then paying for one that gives them the same result. And I believe that that's because Netflix has provided such a superior experience to illegally downloading TV shows and movies that people are willing to go from a free service to a paid one. And that's a really good example of a great experience. Another example is Apple. So I guess, especially the people in this room today being financial people, that a lot of you have seen the supply and demand curve before. Basically what it says is if the price increases, the quantity demanded should decrease. If the price decreases, the quantity demanded should increase. And the funny thing has happened with Apple over the years. They've actually flipped that model on its head. So they basically defied the laws of gravity. Because as the price of their products increases, the demand for them also increases. So for example, the iPhone in Q4 of 2014 cost on average $637 per unit, and they sold 39 million units. And then in Q4 of 2015, their average cost per unit increased by about $50, and the quantity demanded increased by about 10 million. And that's amazing, right? And I think that's mainly down to the iPhone providing such a good experience, and people were willing to pay more for that extra experience. And so the way that these companies, so the way that Netflix and Apple and other great companies like Google and other people create a really good experience is that they work from the outside in instead of the inside out. And this is what we do at PwC Digital as well. So traditionally, when businesses decide to create a new product or service, they work from the inside out. So they'll say, okay, so what technology do we need to have to create this opportunity? What processes do we need to lay on top of that technology to create this product or service? what channels then can we have, and then what interactions do those channels allow us, and then at the end there's an experience. And that experience is often handicapped by those previous decisions that have been made. And it's never really a good experience. But what people like Apple and Netflix and what we do at PwC Digital is we work from the outside in. So we say, what's the absolute best experience that we can create for this product or service? And we take everything else out of the equation, so we've got no limitations around that. And then we say, what interactions support that experience? And then what channels support those interactions? And then what processes allow us to have those channels and interactions? And then what technology enables this altogether? So by thinking from the outside in, we're putting the user at the center of the decisions that we make around new products and services. And we don't just do that for things like websites and apps, like this one for Coca-Cola or this one for Fonterra that we've done. We also use that exact same thinking for designing things like aeroplane seating. So this is the Sky Couch that we helped in New Zealand design. And we also helped them design their premium economy seating and business class seating using exactly the same techniques that we would to design a website or app. And we've also used that same technique to design parking machines and the interior store design of stores. So what I'll be talking about today is how can we create a really good experience, and how can we make someone act like that when they purchase our product or service. This is a guy who's purchased one of the latest iPhones, and he's literally jumping for joy as he walks out of the store. And so how can we create these amazing experiences, and how does this apply to you guys as financial people? And I'll be asking you some questions throughout to see how you guys think that you can apply, how you guys can think that you'll apply these skills. So to begin with, how do we actually create a good experience? So a good experience is the combination of usability and value. And I'll start off by describing what value is, right? So value is basically the reason why we choose one thing over the other. So it's the reason why someone may bus to work instead of ride their bike, because the bus may provide more value. It can get you to town quicker, and you also don't get affected by the weather. Whereas someone else may choose to ride a bike over catching the bus because they get some exercise on the way to work. So value is the reason why we choose anything. Also, value's in the eye of the beholder. So like I was just mentioning, there may be some people who prefer to bus to work, and there's maybe some people who prefer to ride their bike. So it really depends on our perception of the world as to what we see valuable. And value is also all-encompassing. So it's not just about the product, but it's also about the price of it, and the durability and the support and everything else. So if the price of the bus increased to about $20 per trip, then the value of that service is going to decrease dramatically. So that's what value is. And the way we create value is through pains and gains. So we create value by solving people's pains. So solving a problem, for example, if anyone tries to file a tax return with IRD, they will notice that that's quite a rough experience. And so solving that pain would be creating a better experience around that service. And by gains, I mean improving experiences that people don't currently think are problems. So for example, if we go back to 2002, when we all had the Nokia 2280s with the buttons, if you ask someone then how they'd feel if they had a phone without buttons, they'd think you're crazy. Because they'd say, you know, how else am I supposed to interact with my phone? They can't see anything else past what currently exists. So the example of a gain is when the iPhone came out with the touchscreen, and everyone loved it. Whereas if you would have asked them previously about having no buttons, they would have been really shocked and wouldn't have liked it. So that's the example of a gain. And the way we create value is by solving pains and improving gains. And so this is the model that we use. There's actually there's a divider that splits either side of this graph. It's just not coming up on the projector. But so we begin by, so let's say, I'll give you an example here. So let's say that we run a gym and we want to improve the value of our gym. So we go out and we interview about 40 members of our gym and to identify what their pains and gains are. So we've gone out and we've interviewed a bunch of our members, and we've discovered that a bunch of people are shy to work out in front of the opposite sex. There's some other people who don't think there's enough equipment to use during peak hour. And then on the other side, in the gains, there's people who enjoy group exercise classes, and there's other people who enjoy watching TV when they work out. So that's the first step of creating value, identifying those pains and gains from your users, or in this case, the members of our gym. The next step is to identify some pain relievers and gain creators. So this is how we can relieve those pains and how we can improve those gains. So in the example of people who are shy to work out in front of the opposite sex, we could have gender-specific workout rooms. So that's a pain reliever. People who may always forget their routine, we could create an app to allow them to remember their routine as they go through their workout. In terms of the gain creators, so people who enjoy having group exercise classes, we could improve that gain by having more group exercise classes. And people who enjoy watching TV when they work out, we can put TVs in all the workout areas. So that's an example of how we can improve that gain. And then value comes in when we link up these pains and gains. And basically the final step of this is to summarise the pain and how you're going to relieve that pain, or the gain and how you're going to create that gain, into a short sentence. And that's your value, and that's how you can create value. So if we went and implemented the solution of creating gender-specific workout areas, then that's quite possibly going to solve the pain of people being shy to work out in front of the opposite sex, and that's how you create value. So that's one step of a great experience. The other step is usability. So value is nothing if it can't be used. And I've got a really good story to tell you guys about an example of this happening in the past. So in 1935, the US Army sent out a request for their new line of bombers. And they sent this out to a bunch of airline manufacturers, and a bunch replied. And so part of this process of the request for proposal was that these planes had to send in their outline of what they were proposing of their plane, and then they had to demonstrate that plane flying. And so a bunch of airlines sent in their proposals, but basically everyone could have gone home because Boeing had this plane that was absolutely amazing. So it's called the Boeing Model 299, and it could carry 5 times the amount of bombs that the US Army requested. It could fly twice as far as what the US Army requested, and it could fly twice as fast as what the Army requested. So on paper, this plane had immense value, and it basically blew every other plane off the chart. And then on the day that these planes were being demonstrated, a small crowd started to gather to watch the Model 299 take off and do its routine. And so these people gathered around the runway and watched as the plane roared down the runway with its 4 engines instead of 2, which normal bombers had. It took off and climbed up to 300 feet. It banked to the left, and then it plummeted to the ground and crashed. And so Boeing was devastated by this. It actually almost made them bankrupt. And they did a massive investigation into what happened with this plane, why did it crash? And they found that, after thorough investigation, they found that it wasn't technical fault that made this plane crash. So nothing went wrong with the engines, nothing was wrong with the plane was perfectly fine. It was pilot error. And after investigating it even more, they realised that they had overloaded the pilot with too many tasks to fly the plane. So not only did they have to manage the balance of oil between petrol and oil in each engine, in 2 engines, they had to do it now in 4, as well as control the landing gear and the thrust for the plane and the lift and a bunch of other things. So basically what had happened was that the pilot became overwhelmed and couldn't control the plane anymore, and the engine stalled and it crashed. So even though this plane had immense value on paper, because it couldn't be used, it was worthless. So that goes to show that a great experience is a combination of both value and usability. So now that I've explained what a good experience is, how do we actually create a good experience? And we do that using a technique called human-centered design. And that's basically what it describes as putting the human at the center of what we're designing. And it changes our thinking from thinking about what we're going to build to actually why we're going to build it. And it makes us look into people's behaviours and emotions and feelings as they go through our designs, because that's what we need to use to really design a great solution. And this is the technique we use to think from the outside in instead of the inside out. And so this technique has 4 stages: research, design, prototype, and test. And I'm going to give you a bit of a description now of a project that would use this type of process. So let's say, since there's a lot of talk around Sky TV, cable television, and online streaming services these days, let's say that we want to create a competitor to one of these services. So we want to create a better way for people to consume entertainment. And when we start this project, we'd have a whole bunch of assumptions. So let's imagine that all these bubbles are assumptions, and this bar down the bottom is the amount of risk that's in the project. So that the orange is the amount of risk in the bar, and that's full of risk because we've got so many assumptions. And our goal as we go through this human-centered design process is to eliminate all these assumptions and decrease the risk in our project. So we'll begin by unpacking everyone's thinking around this opportunity. So if we're trying to create a better way to consume entertainment, we would unpack all our thinking around it. So we'll ask ourselves questions like, who would actually use this type of service? Who are our competitors? How are we going to beat our competitors? Things like that. And we'll unpack all this thinking. And then the next stage is to actually go out and validate that our assumptions, unpacked from this workshop, are to see if they're actually true or not. So we'd actually go out and talk to a bunch of people, let's say 40 people, about their entertainment habits. And some people may say things that support our assumptions, some people may not, but some may and some others may not. But the good thing is, even though some people burst some of our assumptions, we've decreased the risk in our project. And even though some people may have been against what we're thinking about, we at least now know that we're on a better path to fulfilling this goal and achieving our product. So what we've done after researching is we've bursted a bunch of assumption bubbles and we've decreased the risk in our project. What we'll do next is actually design a few solutions around how we think we can create a better entertainment service. So based on our research, we may have discovered that people really struggle with it when they get home from work, especially young families who have children. So they get home from work, feed their children, put the children to bed, and then they've got about an hour to watch television or watch entertainment after that. And so they don't want to spend all that time trying to figure out what to watch, looking through lists of channels and lists of TV shows and programs. They want that experience to be really easy. They just want something to be recommended to them, and they want that to be a good recommendation so they can just sit down and watch it. So let's say that that's a specific design challenge that we think we can improve to create a really good product. So that's what we'll design in this phase. And the way we design is we get a bunch of diverse people in the room. So we get people who are not only designers, but we'll get developers and product managers and marketers and even financial people in the room as well to design solutions together. And that's because we all look at the world from a different perspectives, right? So a financial person's going to see an opportunity in a different light to what I will as a designer. So that type of diversity is really good because it covers off a lot of bases and makes sure that at the end you've analysed every possible solution and have come up with the best one. So the way we design is we do two things. We diverge and then we converge. So we diverge with this group of diverse people and create as many solutions as possible. And then we converge on the best ones. So we vote and we decide about what the best solutions are that are going to fulfill this opportunity of creating a better recommendation service. So we diverge and then vote on the best ones to converge. What we do next is prototype that solution. So we don't know if that solution is going to work until we actually test it out in a realistic environment. But we don't want to spend too much time creating it. So we don't actually want to create any code or anything like that. We don't want to develop anything. Because the level of realness on the y-axis, if we climb up, the higher we climb up that, the longer it takes. And when we get up to the top, which is be coding something, that's basically getting us into that wasted time area. So what we want to do instead is we want to create something that looks and interacts in a realistic way, but isn't going to take an age to build. So we've got these tools that we use where we can mock up a website in about a day that looks exactly the same as a real one, but it doesn't have anything behind it to actually make it work and function as a proper website. But the user, whoever we put that website in front of, they wouldn't know any different. It's just not as robust as a real website. And we can do that in about a day. So that's what we'll do for this opportunity. If we want to create this really good recommendation service, we'll use one of these agile prototyping tools that we have to create that prototype in a day. And then the next day, we'll actually go out and test it with some of the users that we've identified as people who would actually use the service. So let's say professionals with young families. So we'll take our prototype out and we'll sit it in front of a real user, a user who we think will actually use this. And we won't say anything like, do you like this or do you not like this? We'll just sit them in front of it and give them a scenario and say, imagine that you just got home from work, you've put your children to bed after feeding them, and you've got about an hour to watch TV. You sit down in front of this new product that we've created, and you have a look. And then we'll just let them run through it. So we'll try and make that experience as realistic as possible and tell them, imagine that we're not in the room. And we'll watch them work through our prototype and try to find that TV show or movie to watch. And as they do that, we'll ask them, what are you thinking now? And then what would you do next? Things like that, to try and extract information from them, but without biasing their response. So let's say that the first person really likes our prototype, the second person doesn't, third person does, but the fourth person doesn't. But even though some of these people haven't liked what we've put in front of them, we've popped more of those assumption bubbles and we've decreased the risk in our project. And because people are saying that, telling us what they don't like, we can then focus more on the things that they do like and improving those. And then what we do after testing is that we'll go back to the design phase and we'll say, okay, so based on the results from testing, what have we learned from that we can improve on our designs? And then we'll iterate on our prototype and then test it again. And we'll keep looping through this cycle until we've popped all our assumption bubbles and we've really decreased the risk in our project. And at this stage, we really know that, that this product is going to be good. It's basically a matter of time if you keep iterating through this process until you've created a really good project. So what I'll do now is I'll talk about how a good experience can affect you people as financial people. And what I'll do after this is ask you guys how you think you can use human-centered design to create a good experience. But first off, I'll talk about how I think it can help you. So I've got a couple of case studies to begin with. So Office Max came to us a couple of years ago, and they said we've got a problem with our My Schools website. So they've got a website called My Schools where teachers log into, and they post all the stationery that the students will need for the term. And then the parents log into this website and purchase all that stationery and get it ordered to them. So Office Max had this issue where they were getting a lot of negative feedback around the service, and people were saying it's hard to use and it's taking ages to get this stationery. And they were getting feedback from Office Max's staff as well, saying we're spending a lot of our time dealing with people's queries around this service. So they came to us and we ran this human-centered design process with them. And we unpacked our assumptions, we did some research, we designed solutions, we prototyped and tested them and kept looping through that cycle until we thought we could really nail that experience. And we handed that back to Office Max and they put it online. And when they put it online, something really outstanding happened that we haven't never seen before. So their conversion rates across mobile, desktop and tablets went through the roof. So they dramatically increased, like I'm talking about doubled, more than doubled. And that was because, it wasn't because Office Max changed the products that they offered, it wasn't because the price of those products changed, it's because the experience of the website changed. So it really shows how that experience of the website can affect your revenue and that bottom line. Another example is with a life insurance company that came to us. So they came to us and said that they had a problem around their renewal letters. So every time they sent out a renewal letter, the person would receive it, and they basically realised that they had life insurance with this company. They'd almost forgotten about it in the past. And they'd make a decision at that point, and most of the time that decision meant that they would go and look for another life insurance or cancel their policy instead of renewing, which was what this company's goal was. So they came to us with that problem, and we ran through this human-centered design life cycle again in more of a lean way this time. So it was a lot faster. And we did unpack our assumptions, did our research, designed a few new letters and tested them and kept looping through that cycle. And as we were looping through that cycle, we realised that the reason the underlying reason why people get life insurance is to protect their loved ones, so their family. And so we started to build and design for that in our letters. And we put a bit more information around, remember about your family, keep them in mind when you're making this decision, things like that. And then one guy came in, one of the last people we tested with, and he sat down in our testing lab, and we handed in this letter folded up in an envelope and said, imagine that you pulled this out of your envelope and show us what you do. And so he opened the envelope, pulled out the letter and started reading it, and we gave him a couple of minutes to read that letter. And as he was going through it, we were just watching him, giving him time to do it. And as he was reading the letter, he stopped and he started crying. So he, as he's reading the letter, he started crying. And we thought, we're like, holy shit, what have we done? Have we offended him, or is something happening in his life that has made him burst into tears in our testing lab? But so then the facilitator asked him, what happened? Are you all right? And he's just looking at the letter and he's like, it's so true. The only reason I have life insurance is to protect my daughter. And because if I wasn't here, then she wouldn't be able to go to university or pay for these skill trips or go and have fun with her friends and things like that. So I really need to have life insurance to look out for her if the worst was to happen for me. And needless to say, when this life insurance company changed their letters and sent them out there, the amount of people who were left once they received their policy renewal letter decreased dramatically, and more people re-signed and continued to be with this life insurance company. So then those are a couple of examples of how a really good experience can affect that bottom line. What you guys can do, so you can get involved with the product team. So through this human-centered design lifecycle, if you've got a team at your business who creates products like this, so product managers, designers, developers, marketers, you guys should get involved with them. Because as I was saying before, as you go through that human-centered design process, you need more diversity in that team. And the more diversity you have, the more options you're going to explore, and the better the end result's going to be. So a good start is to get involved with those product teams. Another thing you can do is design for, you can test your product's pricing. So this is a product that we at PwC have started to look into, which is around foreign exchange hedging. So it basically gives you recommendations around when you should hedge or not. So we created a product page for it, which is like one of those pages that you see Apple create when they have a new iPhone, and it looks all pretty and it demonstrates the features and things. So we created this page for our service. So we've got one of the features there, describing another one here, a few quotes from a few people, and then at the bottom we had some product pricing. And so the idea with this was that we literally didn't know how or even where to start about pricing our product. We didn't know if we should offer it for free or if people would actually pay for it. So what we did was we created this page, and we got in a bunch of users who would potentially purchase this product, and we sat them down in front of it. And so they ran through this page and they saw the first feature and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, and then saw the second one and thought that was cool as well. Read a few of the quotes and then got to the pricing. And we didn't say anything, right? We just let them, we wanted to gauge their reaction to it. And then as they were reading it, we asked them to speak aloud as they go through this process. As they were reading the pricing, they said, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll pay that amount of money for this service. So originally we had it at $20 per use, $100 per month, and $1,000 per year. And we were like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, I wonder what the high end of that is. I wonder what, how much we could price this product at to make people say, no, that's too expensive, I'm not going to buy it. So then we ran the same test again, but with double the pricing, which is what you see up here, basically double the pricing. And people ran through it, got to the bottom, and once again, they had no problem with the pricing. And they're saying things like, if this product does what it says it does, then it's going to pay for itself anyway, because I'm going to save money on my hedging. And also that our company pays for subscriptions like that all the time, so we'll be fine to pay that amount of money for this service. So, and then what we're going to do next is try and find even a higher point that to make people say no, so we know what that maximum is. And this will help us with our pricing strategy. It's definitely not a definitive pricing strategy, but it will allow us to know what point we can price it at that won't make people angry and that they'll feel like it's a fair price, as well as benefit us financially. So that's another thing you can do. You can use your human-centered design process to test your product's pricing. You can also test your financial deliverables. So if you write financial reports with recommendations in them, if you do that in a document and send it out to people, it's really hard to track their response to it. Instead of creating these documents, you could put that information into a website and install something like Google Analytics on this website. And what that allows you to do is see exactly how many people are reading your recommendations, how many people are coming back multiple times, and the most interesting thing is how long those people are reading your recommendations for. So you'd be able to tell if someone's only reading it for 30 seconds that they've basically looked at the page and gone away. Or whereas someone who's read it for 5 minutes, they've really taken it in and have had a long amount of time to digest it. And then what you can do after that is follow that up with a bit of a face-to-face interview and say, what did you think about it? And user test it like we were talking about before. And that will help you improve your financial deliverables to have more effect when you deliver them. The final thing you can do is download a book I wrote. So I wrote a book on this whole human-centered design process, and particularly the lean application of that, so the really fast and agile way. And it's called The Guide to Agile UX Design Sprints. UX stands for user experience. And if you Google that name, it will come up as one of the first results, and it's by a company called UXPin who published it. So now it's your guys' turn. So how do you guys think that you can use human-centered design in your day jobs? Has anyone got a suggestion? Anyone? So I asked this question in Christchurch last week, and one person said, who was from council, local government, he was saying that they could use it to test their invoices. So they had a lot of confusion around people dealing with their invoices when they received an invoice. They didn't know exactly what they were paying for, and they didn't know the exact amount either. So he was saying that they could use this process for invoices. Another person said that they could use it for their financial dashboards that they'd send out to people. So they could do that user testing process and see how people reacted to their dashboards and how they could improve it. So can anyone else here today think of any other suggestions? No? Cool.
Yeah. I mean, we pretty much used it with dashboards because taking on the board report, taking it from a very detailed board report down to quite a simplistic approach.
Yep.
And just work through with the ones that we actually identified would potentially give us the most grief.
Yeah.
We got it wrong. And then once they were happy, basically everybody else was happy.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So did you iterate on that on your dashboards? Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. That's a really good example. Can anyone else think of another example? No? Cool. Awesome. So in summary, I hope that I've... Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I can think of one. Yeah, I work in a government environment where we've got servicing several ministers for a standardised process, but there's lots of fingers in the pie for how it's like delivering that through. And it's trying to get the process so it remains as standardised as practical, but still covering off all the people that want to sort of like taste the pie as it goes along.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a really good example as well. Awesome. Okay, so in summary, I hope I've demonstrated how a good experience can affect financial people, and I hope I've given you a bit of inspiration around what you can do to create a better financial experience as well. And if you want any help with creating that experience, then feel free to email me at alexotics.gamble@nz.pwc.com or give me a phone call. But yeah, thanks for being a good audience.